Hello everyone. I would like to start off by expressing my appreciation for the conversations and the time that we took Monday in sharing about the different classroom uh, lessons that were being offered and also getting your input on it. That was very worthwhile and fulfilling from my side because I've had other opportunities to do those things and not had the same level of collaboration as you folks did, so you deserve that compliment. In continuing with our conversation and leading into this first thing that you folks have chose, I've decided to go with evaluating educational websites and to tie in with teaching the lessons and turning up the heat in the classroom with higher thinking, student engagement, authentic learning, and the technology. I want to continue to use Bloom's as our way of connecting and reaching. So with that, let's go ahead and go with this presentation right here. Okay, it starts off by saying we have little time to reflect, and when do we? Often is concrete narration of what happened. Basically what I'm saying here is, how many times do you sit back and truly reflect and think about what's been going on lately? Sometimes you'll do that when an unfortunate incident happens with a friend, family member passing away, or maybe that moment of, if you're an athlete, when you've lost, or okay, I got a bad grade in class, I better stop and think what I'm going on. But I want you to think that when we do our blog posts in class, this is what I'm wanting. I want to really know what's in your mind. I want to hear your opinions and really get a true picture of where you are in your reflecting of what we're doing. And then don't laugh too hard on this little brief video, but here's a good example of a non-reflective person. In other words, they don't want to think about it, just give it to me. Just spoon feed me, let me get it over with so I can move on to the next thing.
All right, here are your exams. 50 questions. True or false?
True.
Homer, I was just describing the test.
True.
Look, Homer, just take the test and you'll do fine.
False. All right, Brain. You don't like me and I don't like you. But let's just do this and I can get back to killing you with beer. It's a deal.
All right. Basically, all Homer was worried about was remembering enough of the test. He didn't truly probably understand or actually learn what was going on. He just studied enough or focused on it enough to remember it long enough for the test. So again, comes back that authentic, engaging pieces or components were obviously missing. So, as we all know, everything's hectic around us, whether we're in school, we're at work, we have personal lives, family lives. For myself, when we're married with kids, it's just, we feel like we're being stretched everywhere, and there's not enough time in the day, and there's not enough of us to go around. And that's kind of how you're going to feel, especially in the classroom, those early years teaching. And even the veterans of us feel that way at times too. But it's like here again, someone else is usually telling how you're doing it. In other words, you don't get a chance to reflect once again on how'd that go, what can I do different. You're always getting advice from someone else. And again, back to the times and the roles of being a student, a teacher, an administrator. Some of you may aspire to want to become an administrator, but you still have to do that deep reflective, dig deep and find the positives, find those negatives, and then also reflect on the negatives of how you can spin them and turn them into positives next time. So some of the influences that you have as a student or your students will have on themselves is going to include, going to include oh gosh, does spelling count on this paper? Does it work on this blog post? When's it due again? Will this be on the test? I mean, you're so worried about that you don't just focus on the task at hand, but all the influential pieces or components that do that. Now, as a teacher, you're going to ask these questions like, God, did I cover everything for that test, especially for state assessments? I mean, state assessments, wow. Am I going to get fired if my kids don't do well in those state assessments? How much time do we have left in class? Golly, we didn't get anything accomplished today. Uh-oh, it's almost Friday. Eligibility reports are due. My grades in? Are those parents I'm always getting questioned by parents about, are these grades up to date? Because they're checking online. You know, you're just everywhere and you don't get that time to just sit back and relax and, again, think about things. And of course, administrator, you're not going to be left without having your own concerns. And there's a lot more concerns here that an administrator is going to have, as well as a teacher and a student, than those that we have. But these are just some examples to kind of get you thinking about and reflecting about, man, I do need to find some time to just sit back, hit the pause button, catch my breath, reflect. But again, connecting everything with blooms, there's different levels. There are even different versions of blooms. In this picture right here with the staircase kind of gives you the most recent levels of blooms, remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Well, here would be one thing that we've used in previous school district that I was at, Lyons. We'd pass this out to every teacher, and this wheel is real nice for mentoring minds, writing questions. I still kind of go to it too because of some of the verbiage, possible questions that I can use. But the problem is as you see here in this illustration, there's the new revision. This one's out of date. Kind of like technology is. As soon as you get it, it's out of date. But even the good things that are the old things can be very beneficial. Much like not always having to rely on technology, but just some of the traditional methods, some of the traditional things done in class are very effective. You've just got to find that middle road where it blends together. Much like these steps and the natures around it, they're blending together. So we ask that you really kind of think when you're reflecting. And when you're reflecting, go back to your discussions that you had in your groups during class about the different classroom scenarios. Like I said at the beginning, there were some excellent conversations in each of those groups I went around and listened to. Some groups were lower level blooms, comprehension knowledge questions, and a lot of you were very strong in the analysis, evaluation steps of blooms. And that's great to see because those are the components that I will be looking for in discussions, in your blog posts, in your projects. So let's start with analyzing, discovering patterns. In other words, is there a pattern to the weather? Is there a pattern to that math problem? Is there a pattern to that student's performance in PE class? Because is he sick? Are they always injured? Do they wear jeans all the time? I mean, you're going to be able to sit back, analyze, and nitpick at a lot of things through your career as an educator. So these are some things or aspects to even consider or keep in mind when it comes to analyzing in these questions. Is in your reflections, do I see patterns that approach the lesson? Is one of my patterns that I always teach from the book? Do I always ask the same kids? You know, there's a pattern. Those are things to think about. So, again, back to evaluating, assessing our progress. Where was I at the beginning and where am I at now? So in this evaluating process, again, when you're writing your blog posts and discussing in class, where was I before this? Now where am I at now? Did I actually gain something? Do I have a better, clearer picture mentally in what it may take to be successful in the classroom? Those are the things that you need to really consider. So as some examples, here you go again. And we're talking about the project-based learning or problem-based learning, and depending on how folks look at it. But you're going to have your essential question, your content question, unit questions. All of those kind of come and go. And if you look at these questions here, how can I best use my strengths? That's open-ended. Are we talking professional? Are we talking personal? So again, keep these things in mind when you're evaluating, analyzing, reflecting. Creating a plan. What's next? Well, that's the thing is, again, remember the diagram we showed in Lodi with assessing, where we talked about one person said the recycle logo. Another person talked about the water cycle. The scientific method. It's all that thing. The plan, assess, review, revise, assess. Just keep going. You feel like you start looking at the clock. So in creating, here's some more example questions. Principal, how am I progressing as a leader? What are my next steps? What can I do to help my teachers be more beneficial in the class? So be creative, lead by example. Here's a great example of a student or a young boy wanting to know how to do a bow drill. And those who are not familiar with a bow drill, you'll see in a little bit in this brief video. But this young boy is wanting to try to learn how to make fire without, obviously charcoal or gas, a lighter. This is back to the old days, pioneer time, even survival of the fittest out in the nature in the wild. This is all those kind of things, but this was done by a young boy asking for help.
Hello, I'm trying my hardest here to make a bow drill set. See this is my spindle, and this is my block that you put on the top. So when you're spinning it around like that, so it won't melt into your hand. And then this is the bow that I use, and I just use some paracord, nylon paracord. And then this is the hearth that's made out of yellow cedar. The hole is right there, and I tried another hole, but that was too deep, so it didn't really work. And then this is the tinder, it's just normal dry lint. And I'm going to show you how I do it, and I'm doing it wrong, I know I am. And please comment down below so you can teach me how to do it, okay? Okay, this is another part of how I actually do it, and I'm going to test it out. And once again, comment down below and tell me what I'm doing wrong.
And again, as you see here, how authentic is that? Actual feedback from somebody other than mom and dad, a neighbor? I mean, that's the way it is with the blogs and a lot of the projects that I'll have you guys sharing. As you see here, the reflective experience, it's real world, authentic learning. The student was engaged, wasn't he? He's trying to solve a problem that he's not sure how to do himself. I mean, think of this, the power of these type of things in your classroom, where a student, obviously can go up to the board, doesn't have to be a video, but can go to the board and say, okay, here's how I did the math problem. Help guide me. Don't just tell me, but guide me through this. Those are the things anymore that students really actually want, yeah, there's a lot of them out there. Just give me the answer. Just tell me how to do it. Just tell me what my assignment is. Otherwise, don't talk to me. Well, don't you feel like when you were in elementary, man, your hands got messy with the paint or the clay or the colors, markers were all over you because you got a chance to really explore, be creative, um, try something you hadn't tried before. But as you get older, do you have that chance to explore more? That's something to think about also. So, as we say here, lifelong learning. I mean, you're still going to school. When you get older, let's not even forget about, let's forget about being in education, but just how to be successful or, profession or just survive and become a very effective husband, wife, father, grandparent, friend, family member. I mean, those are all lifelong learning experiences that we're going to have. And again, you got to take responsibility for your own growth. And we'll talk about some of that later too when we talk about the communication, collaboration, video conferencing, social media, Twitter, Plurk, Facebook, those different venues that can be used for lifelong learning and professional, responsible, individualized growth. So, again, think about this whole situation. Are we truly providing meaningful experiences? What are we doing to get you to reflect and think about how things are and where things are? And are you going to be one of those, like a former student in one of these classes is now out teaching and they're like, I wish I cared about my education then the way I do now. Now that I'm teaching, I look back and go, man, I should have been more responsible while at college. And it's great to finally reflect on it, but look how long it took them, 2-3 years to finally reach that point. That's why, again, I challenge you to be reflective and think about those things. So what we're going to talk about again on Monday is going to be evaluating educational resources for the classroom, and we're going to look at Web 2.0 resources. And in the background you probably hear the rain taking place here and what we want you to think about also is going to be focusing on, again, the Bloom's taxonomy. And let me grab a picture for you. That I want you to think about to kind of help keep in mind of things here. And when we're talking about taxonomy, there we go. Is the different levels. And this is a great example, again, like we said, the weather, everything's kind of appropriate here. So let me zoom in and make this a little easier for you to see. Here's our essential question, and again, back to that last night, or that previous night when we drew the umbrella up there and I was talking about PBL with the essential question, unit question, content question. Well, here's an illustration that kind of ties it. Takes our umbrella, it's tying in with blooms, and obviously it's authentic because what are we going through right now? Well, as I record this, thunderstorm. But each of these are the different current levels of the most recent version of blooms. Each raindrop is a verb that's appropriate for that level. So for example, for remember is list, find, describe. Understand is explain, discuss, compare. To apply it is show me, classify, examine, and analyze, investigate, evaluate, justify, and create is obviously, invent something, construct something, build something, compose something. And keeping those in mind comes the next illustration that goes right along with this whole thing. And this is this one. With blooms, now the verbs have slid up onto the umbrella, and the raindrops are different Web 2.0 tools at different levels. So those are another things to also think about. And obviously we don't think about blooms when we choose our friends, do we? But don't you find yourself going, man, I don't know if I trust that person, or man, that person's trustworthy. I believe I could tell him my secrets. Or, when you start looking for that boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever it be, are you not going to start analyzing them, going, I compare him to this boyfriend, or I compare him to my mom or dad or best friend. Are you not actually using different levels of blooms when you're doing that stuff? Probably so, you just don't think about it. So that's where we want to get as far as what in this class, getting you to think about these different levels and how you can do different things, and how some things may be appropriate, some things may not be. And another illustration to kind of give you when we're talking about blooms is, here's the levels in a pyramid. All kinds of different Web 2.0 tool options for different levels. Some of them are even at multiple levels. So keep that in mind. Can it be used for multiple things? Absolutely. So in wrapping things up, I just want you to keep in mind here that sites like this one, thinkfinity.org, where you can provide all kinds of resources, interactives, lesson plans, teacher resources, student resources, are all to different science, economics, National Geographic, you name it, they've got a lot of resources to it. This would be one of them that you guys would want to probably evaluate. Another one is, we call him Cybrary Man, but Jerry is a former teacher and a librarian, and he's got his own, as we said, Cybrary. It's a library via the internet. It's out there in cyberspace, where he's got all kinds of things here, and he evaluates and makes recommendations on sites. But Monday, we're going to give you a folder or a binder, much like what you're going to use for your semester final that we've already told you about. You will be using this one right here. This is a Web 2.0 organization live binder I've got with tons and tons and tons of resources and Web 2.0 tools for you to choose from. And we'll be talking about them in class, and I want you to be thinking about this, is what would be some things that you're going to teach in class you already know about, that you're interested in, that you might want to find a web resource for. So come prepared with your thinking caps on, ready to evaluate, browse some websites, and just sit back and reflect on different resources, characteristics that you may want to think about when considering a resource, and start compiling some resources for your classroom as well as for your final semester project portfolio. So anyhow, have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday.